somebody brought up the idea of a Genesis reunion.
Yes.
And, well, what was your answer?
Well, it's not a new idea. I think that I would be up for it. Yeah, I've noticed that the line is that most guys in the band say they wouldn't rule it out. I would say, well, bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on.
Sure.
I agree with that.
But I have no news. There's nothing I can report to you. Whatever you've read is, I think, probably entirely spurious. I mean, there could be a reformation of any version of that band at any time, incling you.
That's right. You're using some great vocabulary words, by the way. I'm liking this.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's possible, but improbable. Meanwhile, I honour the music because I love that early music.
Well, here's the thing, too. I remember Mike Rutherford. He was here with Mike and the Mechanics last year, and he made a little tease about 50th anniversary kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but anything is possible. Now, that could mean a remaster, reissue of stuff in archives. Who knows?
Indeed, yes.
But I would like to see a Genesis reunion. Once again, you guys think about the lineup that you had in the early 70s, mid 70s. You're a super group at that time.
Yeah, well, I think it's very strange. I think all guys that are in big bands, you join a little band at some point, and then
exactly,
and then it surpasses all expectations, and then you have. Yes, you have the possibility of doing that for the rest of your life, or you owe your allegiance to music in general. And I didn't want to get pensioned off. It was a great band, wonderful while it was.
With Steve Hackett, he's got his new album that's out. Wuthering
Nights.
Wuthering Nights.
Wuthering
is the English term for blistering.
Blustering.
Withering.
Yeah,
Blustering.
yeah.
I'm sorry, blistering. That's something else. That's caused by something completely different. You want to stay away from that. Now, you're with Chris Squire.
That's right.
Of Yes.
Yeah.
You're checking out Led Zeppelin. So we're about to play the song that you heard that night. Now I'd like you to play disc jockey and tell everybody.
Okay. Well, that's an extraordinary evening. Actually, the funny thing was, Chris was playing on that. There was another band that had himself and Keith Emerson.
Wow.
And he said, "Are you coming to that?" So I said, well, I don't think I've got a ticket. And he said, well, why don't you drive me there, hold my guitar, be my roadie for the night, and come on in. So we did. That's what we did. So I was his roadie for the night.
That's cool.
I held his guitar.
You got in for free.
We got in for free. And it was extraordinary. They were extraordinary that night. I mean, I'd worked with John Paul Jones in Japan with a band that had Nuno Bettencourt. Paul Gilbert, very interesting. Mike Suter of the Suitors, that was great. That was, this kind of Anglo-American band. We did a thing called Guitar Wars, which was extraordinary. You remember that? I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah.
I remember GTR, by the way.
John Paul Jones, that's right.
John Paul Jones.
John Paul Jones.
Great one. Admiral in the Navy.
Yeah.
And he also was a member of Led Zeppelin. But this is one of those mesmerizing songs that we're going to play that you heard there that night.
Yes.
We have the live recording from my garage
You
right
do.
here.
You
It said Tails Out. You saw me
Right.
rewind it. We're going to play it from the reel to reel. Nobody does
Go
that.
for it. It was a great gig. They were phenomenal, and considering they hadn't played together for a zillion years, they were great.
I really miss is Greg Lake. I
Me too.
actually cried when he passed away.
Well,
I
now-
didn't expect it. I knew he
okay.
was sick.
Am I allowed to name drop a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead. Name drop away.
Okay. Well, I went to a King Crimson. It was, I think, the first time they'd had a reunion to celebrate some stuff that had been recorded many years ago at the Marquee in 1969. Now, I attended a lot of those concerts before they made that first incredible album. But all these years later, I'd met most of them and spent time together. Ian MacDonald and I were pals. I'd done a little bit of work with him and Michael Giles and Pete Sinfield and Robert Fripp. I'd never met Greg, but at this do, I met him and I was introduced by Ian, and Greg shook my hand and he held it for a very long time, shaking it, and no words passed between us, but it was just this idea of absolute solidarity. And because I'd spoken, I like to think that I'd praised Crimson publicly, I thought they were wonderful. That first incarnation of that band, and Greg is irreplaceable. There's something
Absolutely.
about his voice, his persona, huge influence. And we're just reading off the names of the fallen here. But you know, they're all British guys. You know, we're all roughly the same age. We're not that so far distant.
Well,
in
I would
years.
say for me, all of those guys are pretty much they're part of me. They're in my heart because I grew up listening to all of their music, all their songs, their music. So you really, you know what it is? You go from this mortal life that we have here, and then you become eternal. You're with the ages. And that's where they are right now. It must be one hell of a supergroup.
I think there will be a great supergroup up there.
Yeah.
There already is. You know.
Okay, who's in your supergroup in heaven?
Okay. Well, another pal who passed on, Jack Bruce.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He and I were due to form a band with Keith. We mentioned that we rehearsed for 3 days, and Simon Phillips was going to be part of it. So, yeah, you know. And I spoke to Jack. I think a year before he passed, we played a festival together in Bury St Edmunds, which is near Norfolk.
Yeah,
The
not
original
Virginia.
Norfolk,
over
not
in
Norfolk,
England.
Virginia. No, the original one in the old country. And I remember I'd written to him because I knew that he'd had he'd not had great health, and so it was not looking great for him. But anyway, and I wrote to him and said, you know, because we'd hoped to work together and it hadn't quite worked out. And I said, well, whatever else, your work is eternal. And I was referring to Cream because there's just something about the vocals that he did with Cream. Never mind the bass playing, which was extraordinary. And I think Cream were an incredible trio.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I really meant that, you know. And funnily enough, I'd taken place, a few months ago. His son called me up, Malcolm Bruce, and said, would you be prepared to do a retrospective, a tribute to him in London at the Shepherd's Bush Empire? And I said, yep, jumped at it. And he said, is there any particular tune you'd like to do? And I said, Spoonful. Now, I know they didn't write that. That was a Howlin' Wolf song. And I think, was it a Willie Dixon original, I believe? I think, anyway.
I mean, Willie Dixon might have wrote it and then Howlin' Wolf recorded it, because that's how it used to go with a lot of the blues songs. Yeah, I can see that.
But I remember, Jack, I said, I remember seeing you at a club when the band was first formed. This was Cream. And I thought they played that place a lot of times. It was called the Ram Jam Club in London. And he said, yeah, I remember that one. That was a good gig. And I said, it was a damn good gig. You know, I mean, they were on fire. They were just brilliant. And I remember this live version that they'd done of Spoonful, and Jack's voice just sort of shaking the rafters of the place. So that was the one I wanted to do. And we did. And yeah, you know, just one of those things. Some songs just blaze for you, don't they? So I think early lovers of Cream, there were the great songs, the ones that Pete Brown wrote with Jack. There were the other ones that Eric wrote, of course, you know. But there was something about that first album, and I know Eric was very disappointed with that. But for the rest of us, the fans, the true owners of the music, are always the fans, and that was just great. You know, I just remember listening to that endlessly with Pals and Zeppelin, and we were there when it was officially, you know, the thing for Ahmet Ertegun in London.
Yeah,
the
O2, yeah.
Which happens to be a great album.
Oh, it is fantastic. Celebration Day, I think it's called.
That's right. We were standing there with Chris Squire, the late great
Oh my
Chris
gosh,
Squire,
one of the best
and-
bass players ever.
And we were standing right at the back, and it was still very loud. And as they went into Kashmir, Chris said to me, "This is my favourite Zepp song," and I said, "Well, it's mine too." You know, and there's just something about that. There was something, the simplicity, but the drive of that. You know, something elemental and absolutely wonderful about that track. So, yeah. So yes, and Genesis shared a love of that, and I think it's hugely influential. It seems to bridge that thing, you know, trance music.
Yeah.
And,
Your website is
www.hackettsongs.com.
HackettSongs.com. I like that.
HackettSongs.com.
Hackett Songs, Hackett with 2 T's.
That's it.
You got to have the 2 T's.
HACKETT. That's it.
Right on.